737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. You can also go to 997WTN.com if you want to do that. EJ Haust is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline, our political analyst. EJ, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Getting back into the swing of it after a Thanksgiving holiday. Hope you had a great holiday.
It was a great holiday. Of course, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, EJ, is, of course,
ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
So Joe Biden, of course, big news this morning after, years of saying that Joe Biden would not pardon Hunter. He turns around and he does it. And interestingly enough, of course, is he gave a full and unconditional pardon for Hunter's potential crimes committed from January 1st of 2014, conveniently during his time with Burisma through December 1st of 2024. Were you surprised by this, EJ?
Not surprised that he got the pardon. Surprised about the details of it. So 11 years is a really long time. Like you mentioned, that covers his time at Burisma. I really feel like this isn't so much a pardon for Hunter as it is for the big guy.
Yep.
Right? Like, if we really look at it, I think there's more to it. The timing is interesting. Why now? Why not wait until, over the holidays, Christmas, that kind of thing, where it kind of gets buried. But right after the Cash Patel announcement and all of these things coming out about J6 again, like, not that we didn't know it before, right? But I find the timing interesting of the announcement. I also find the 11-year timing interesting as well.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of folks are looking at that and they're saying, wait a minute. So January 1st of 2014, that is right when you have Hunter Biden going to work for Burisma. Of course, I don't want to relitigate that entire story, but it's all about corruption and influence peddling. And so when you look at, the gun charges and the tax evasion charges, okay, I get it. But when you go through that 11-year period, to me, I think it's clear that you've got Joe Biden, President Biden, and he's trying to protect the Biden crime family. Because right. when you are trying to protect Hunter Biden, well, that means that, okay, well then does that mean that they can't go and look into all of the the political malfeasance, if you will, the influence peddling and so forth, of, like, for example, Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, and, as you said, the big guy as well. But one of the questions is, okay, so if he now basically has immunity, if you will, from any possible crime from 2014 to literally yesterday, and Cash Patel maybe gets in there, the FBI, and they start digging around that whole case and really start looking at the influence, the charges of influence peddling, the accusations of influence peddling, he can no longer claim, he can't claim the fifth. So,
right. I actually mentioned that last night. That was one of the first things that I was like, wait, what does this mean? Like, if you follow my X feed at EJ Under the Radar, I've been making a few comments there and reposting people who are far smarter than me that have been saying that very thing. So he can't plead the fifth because the pardon basically means he faces no criminal jeopardy, right? So no punishment for spilling the beans. The pardon really doesn't close the door to Hunter ever telling all. In fact, some are saying that there's a book release coming, but whatever the reason, this doesn't keep Hunter's mouth shut. It really opens it when you think about it. So I don't know. It's very interesting how it's all working out. I'm not sure if the Biden administration truly thought through all of that. I worry less about Joe Biden, like, who's going to put that, dementia-ridden old man in jail, like, through a trial. Like, none of that's going to happen. But think about, like you said, all the other people, Jill Biden, for example, basically, running the administration while her husband is incapacitated. Very interesting. It also only covers federal crimes. So state crimes, international crimes, other things that could be coming, lawsuits, charges, etc., are not necessarily covered. It does say that it's federal crimes specifically against the United States. That means that there are crimes against the United States, most likely, right? Like Joe Biden knows that this is coming, kind of a thing. But the fact that Hunter is unable to plead the fifth really makes the Cash Patel and all the coming investigations beyond interesting. It's just fascinating, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm trying to find something similar in the past of the United States, and I'm kind of coming up short. This is unprecedented.
So one of the things, and you mentioned a book. So as the story goes, the whole family is, I guess, in Delaware, wherever they are, celebrating Thanksgiving. And again, as the story goes, Daily Mail reported this, that Hunter goes to Joe and he says, I've written a book and it's going to come out and everything's going to be exposed unless you grant me a pardon. Mm-hmm. So do you believe that version of the story? Because it almost sounds like Hunter, I mean, blackmail, I don't know what you'd call that, but it seemed to me like a threat.
Extortion in a way.
Extortion, yes.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's plausible. I find it implausible, however, that somebody at the Daily Mail would get that scoop, right? Like, I don't know. It's a plausible thing. I think probably he didn't go to Joe. I think he probably went to Joe's handlers and he went to Jill and said, all right, this is up now. I'm done. I've had enough. My name's being dragged through the mud. Let's get this pardon thing going. To say that Hunter is the one who initiated this and pushed the timeline is probably not a stretch. Whether or not somebody within the Biden family would leak that to the Daily Mail, I don't know how much I believe that. So, but I think it's plausible. President-elect
Trump coming out and saying that his pick to lead the FBI is Cash Patel. And people, I mean, I know that you watch the media just as much as I do, and people are really freaking out. I want to talk about that real quickly, though. I do want to backtrack a little bit because I did want to bring this up to you because I know that you and I are both passionate about the J6ers. Donald Trump, on the heels of Joe Biden pardoning Hunter, says, does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice. Now, I think personally, and I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I think that this absolutely gives Donald Trump the justification to, when he comes into office, pardon the J6ers, or at least some of them.
He should release all of them, like pardon every last single one of them now. Like, forget the problem. We can't just say like only those who committed violent crimes or, destroyed property or whatever, those say they have to go through, because there's so much being made up about these people now. It's inflated. They're calling things violence that weren't, all of that. So just blanket at this point. If Hunter can get a blanket pardon, then the J6ers can get a blanket pardon. End that part of our history, and let's move on to bigger and better, more positive things. But it does relate to the Cash Patel thing, right? So remember, he publicly has said that the J6 committee hid evidence of Trump's push for 10,000 National Guards. Right? Like, so it's all interconnected. The J6 thing, the Patel thing, the Hunter pardon, all of it is connected. And the timing that it's all coming to a head right now is pretty huge.
This is what Cash Patel has said about the FBI.
Then we need to decrease what I call government creep with personnel. The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and rapists and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title.
So that is the soundbite that a lot of the media organizations are running with. And, he's saying, I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but basically he's saying that he wants to fundamentally transform the FBI, change its scope, its size, and its focus. And I understand why he's going down this road, because the FBI clearly, along with the DOJ, has been politicized. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so obvious, right? The reason the media is freaking out is because they're going to lose their access. Remember, reporters and reporter types and talking heads, they all just really like their access to FBI people. And they're also crazy libs, right? So the radical left is going to freak out when the radical left is being called out for, crimes or, political creep, or what did he say? Government creep, So for sure. I mean, Patel gets it though, right? Like he's committed to releasing the Epstein list. He said that publicly. He wants to release the Diddy tapes. He says he's seen the secret 7 pages of the JFK assassination report, right? Like this guy is committed to bringing integrity back to the FBI. And if you don't see that, and if you don't appreciate that, then there's something wrong with you, right? Like saying that he wants the FBI to go catch rapists and murderers in the United States is not controversial, right?
Well, unless you work at MSNBC.
Right. Well, or you work in, you're one of those 7,000 people who don't even show up to these offices. We're finding out, thanks to Elon and X, that they're empty anyways in D.C., but they all live there and they all voted for Kamala Harris 93 or 95% or something like that. It was only 3 or 4% of the D.C. population that actually voted for President Trump. So, spare me all of this, cry me a river, whatever the phrase is. Spare us all your crying and your outrage. This guy wants to clean up the FBI. He wants to bring integrity back. And anybody who says otherwise or has a problem with that is the problem. So
do you think he'll be confirmed? Do you think he'll be able to get him confirmed?
I do. I think he'll get confirmed. I think the ones that are going to have trouble are going to be the ones that have more controversy, I guess, in their backgrounds. The ones who are easier to smear, I think Cash Patel is a little tough to smear, and that's a good thing.
It's interesting, too, because they keep saying, and I've mentioned this off and on throughout the morning, but, you have, whether it's Pete Hegseth or Cash Patel or, some of these other folks, where they'll say, well, all of these picks that Donald Trump is making, they just don't have the experience to do these positions, whatever the position might be. And my answer to that is always going to be, okay, so Biden comes in. That's a man who has a heck of a lot of experience, not to mention you have all of these other people within Biden's cabinet, within his administration as well. Just all of these people that are loaded with experience in the deep state, and look at the deep trouble that our country is in. That's what experience in the deep state does to our government, which is why I like, a Pete Hegseth or a Cash Patel leading defense or the FBI respectively. And so I just, I'll give you the last word, EJ, but to me, I think that by and large, Donald Trump is on the right track.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the number of appointees and announcements that they have made thus far, out of, say, 20-ish, if we like 17 to 18 of them, then great. I'm not crazy about this guy from Tampa, and I got to do a little more research, like the one who was just announced a couple of days ago. Don't like his take on COVID. But then you have Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and he completely neutralizes anybody else in the administration or upcoming administration who had problems, with their COVID stances, because he's so great on it. So I think having a nice balance, I think not agreeing with every single pick is fine. I think we are on the right track. And so far, I would support almost every single one of them. And I think that's saying something, right? No one is going to agree with anybody, President Trump, or, I don't agree with myself 24/7. So right. I think it's human nature to change your opinion and learn from things. And we don't learn if we don't have opposing opinions. So I'm okay with it as of right now. And I'm just going to keep riding this wave. I think the best part of this whole election win is what it's done to us as a nation. Everyone on the Trump side just kind of owning this and saying he's got our support. We've continued to support the president and those that are working through the transition team, which, usually this is a pretty dead zone for media, but they are owning the media narrative. It's a great thing to watch.
All right, EJ, how can folks find you on Twitter?
Yeah, go find me on X at EJ under the radar.